What is going on, guys? Dublar back here with another Diablo 3 Season 10 Patch 2.5.0 build guide. This time, bringing you one of my favorite all-time builds, the FlashFire Wizard. Although this is not the strongest build in the game, it's still an important build when used in the right torments. This build absolutely destroys T10, wiping the map with unprecedented speed. When combined with the additional DB drops from the Sages set, farming DBs is a breeze. It is also, in my opinion, one of the easiest builds in the game to play. So without further ado, let's get straight into the gear. Like most wizards, this build gets all of the set bonuses from the Tau set. The most important of these is the 750% damage increase per stack, which you can stack up to 4 times. These stacks are gained by casting different elemental skills. Luckily, in this build, it's super easy to get and maintain, but we'll get to that in a minute. Another set we use is the Bastions of Will, which is comprised of the Focus and Restraint rings. This gives an extra 50% damage when casting a primary skill, and another 50% damage when hitting with a spending skill. We will also use the Sage's Journey set to increase DB drops for better efficiency. Side note here, make sure you're using the Sage's Journey set and not the Sage's Plight set. The latter will not give you the DB increase. Shoulders and bracers are a bit of a free slot. You can run whatever you want here. However, I definitely recommend NEMs for the bracers, as it'll be easier to keep up the Ingeon proc and clear rifts faster. For our weapon, we'll run the Wand of Woe. This will trigger 3 additional blasts when we cast Explosive Blast, effectively increasing our damage. And for our offhand, we'll run the very well optimized Orb of Infinite Death. This gives us a 6-second damage increase of 5% and a 15% damage reduction when we hit an enemy with Explosive Blast. This stacks up to 4 times, giving us a possible 20% damage increase and a 60% damage reduction. Moving into the legendary gems, we'll run Bane of the Trapped for the damage increase, Wreath of Lightning, which gives the possibility for extra damage and additional movement speed, and Boon of the Hoarder, which increases our gold drop and synergizes well with the gold wrap, which will run in the cube. Getting into the cube, we'll run Ingeon for the CDR. This is an important part of the build, and we'll want to maintain this proc for as long as possible. As I mentioned, gold wrap will take up the armor slot. It'll provide us with a 5-second armor buff equal to the amount of gold that we picked up. And for the jewelry, we'll run the Ring of Royal Grandeur in order to gain the full set bonuses from the Sages and Tals. Moving into skills, our first skill will be Electrocute with the Surge of Power rune. This serves as a primary skill and an arcane power generator. This will proc the damage buff from the Bastions of Will and serves as a lightning element for the Tal stacks. Teleport Calamity. This serves as a great mobility skill, and the rune adds a Tal stack for the arcane element. The stun from Calamity also procs Bane of the Trapped. Frost Nova with the Frozen Mist rune. This is a cold stack for Tals. The rune increases the area that cold damage is dealt and helps with maintaining stacks. Explosive Blast with the Chain Reaction rune. This is the corner skill for this build, dealing most of our damage. The Chain Reaction rune adds 3 extra explosions when the skill is cast. And rounding out our skills, we'll run Diamond Skin with the Prism rune, which will allow us to absorb damage equal to 40% of our life, and Storm Armor with the Scramble rune, which will give us a good armor buff, and the rune will increase our movement speed. Moving on into passives, we'll run Illusionist, which will reset teleport when we take at least 15% of our life in damage over a single second, Elemental Exposure, which will play well with the Tao's bonus, adding an extra 5% damage per stack to enemies that are affected by each of the separate skills, Audacity for the 30% damage buff dealt to enemies within 15 yards, and Evocation for the extra 20% CDR. So before we move into gameplay, I want to cover a few tips and mechanics that'll make this build much easier to play. The first is the Numlock trick. For those of you who don't know what this is, I'll give a quick rundown on it. This trick allows us to automatically cast spells on cooldown. In order to do this, all you need to do is change or add numlock buttons to the skills you want to auto cast. In this case, the skills are Frost Nova, Explosive Blast, and Diamond Skin, which are set for me on 1, 2, and 3. Once you add numlock to these, you can set them to autocast by turning on numlock, holding down the skills corresponding to the numlock buttons we set, and while holding these down, turn numlock off. That's all you need to do to force these skills to continue to cast. In order to turn this off, simply hold down the buttons and turn numlock back on. As a tip, entering the chat will also cause a temporary pause in this casting. This is useful in things like bounties. If we're running the numlock trick, we should also change our force move to the scroll wheel. If we use something like the left mouse button to move, we run the risk of interrupting the auto casting if it's held down. The scroll wheel avoids this by pushing many short movement commands without interrupting our skills. So now that we have that set, we can jump into some gameplay and break it down to give you guys a better understanding of how to play this build. So we'll go ahead and jump into this T10 speedrun. Starting off the Rift, you want to begin by permacasting Frost Nova, Explosive Blast, and Diamond Skin using the numlock trick. You should also take this time to refresh Energy Armor. Since this lasts for 10 minutes, you won't have to worry about it for the rest of the Rift. Now our damage will be relatively low until we proc Ingeome by killing an elite pack, so we want to make that our first priority. It's also worth mentioning, when you come across gold or yellow elites, you have to kill all of the enemies in the mob in order to get the Ingeome proc. These enemies are usually marked with a yellow circle around them. As you can see here, I ended up skipping one monster in the pack and I didn't get that proc, but luckily I was able to find another elite quickly. Once we get that Ingeome proc, we want to try to maintain it as much as possible for the greatest efficiency. When the proc is active, the cooldown for teleport will be extremely quick, so make sure you're spamming this as much as possible to locate the next elite quickly. Using teleport frequently will also ensure that tile stacks stay refreshed. When you get to your elite mob, you want to use electrocute and occasionally teleport around the enemy. The teleport will stun enemies, proccing Bane of the Trapped for the extra damage buff. You also want to try to stay as close to the enemies as possible to maximize the explosive blast damage, but to also ensure that the meteors from the tile set have the best chance at hitting the elites. And that's pretty much it. This build is extremely simple to play and should help you stack DBs in no time. With better rolled gear or Caldescens, you should be able to push into higher torments, but make sure that you're prioritizing speed. Anyways guys, if this video helped you out, don't hesitate to hit that like button or let me know about it down in the comments. I'd also be interested in hearing what builds you guys would like to see next. As always, don't forget to get subscribed to know about my latest D3 content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.